時間となりましたので、セミナーを開始いたします。本日、座長を務めますのは、九州大学アジア・オセアニア研究教育機構コーディネーターの横田文彦准教授です。横田先生、よろしくお願いいたします。
はい、穴井先生、ありがとうございます。皆様、こんにちは。横田文彦と申します。第138回目のプランバックセミナーにご参加いただき、今日はありがとうございます。九州大学人文科学研究院哲学部門より、今日はヤンユー先生をお招きし、満州の都市空間についてお話しいただきます。ヤンユー先生は英語でご講演されますので、私も英語で紹介したいと思います。日本語をご希望の方は、画面下の通訳機能ボタンをクリックしていただければ、クリックしていただき、日本語を選択していただければと思います。またですね、視聴中、また視聴後、ご質問やコメントはですね、いつでもチャットボックスの方にお願いできればと思います。それでは英語で始めさせていただきます。よろしくお願いいたします。Welcome to 138 Brambach Seminar. Thank you very much for joining. Today we are grateful for having Gloria Yanyu Sensei from Faculty of Humanities, Kyushu University. She will be talking about urban space in modern Manchuria. It is a great opportunity for learning about history, culture, and urban architecture of Manchuria from a philosophical perspective. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Gloria Yanyu Sensei. Please take a look at this slide. Gloria Sensei. Gloria is a nickname, an English name, since Yanyu Sensei has been in US for a long time, more than 10 years. Professor Yanyu Sensei is originally from China. Yanyu Sensei graduated from Beijing University, and she obtained a doctoral degree at art history from Columbia University at the United States in 2018. While writing her doctoral dissertation on modern Japanese art and architecture, she was also a visiting researcher at the Kyoto Institute of Technology and the University of Tokyo and the Institute for Oriental Culture. Her research theme ranged from the architecture and urban landscape of Manchuria before 1932 to the visual culture and urban space of 20th century East Asia. From 2020, she joined Kyushu University, Faculty of Humanities. Since 2023, Professor Yanyu Sensei has been conducting a collaborative research project with their colleague, Professor Anton Schweitzer Sensei. This research project is supported by the prestigious research grant from the Getty Foundation. Anton Sensei also presented this PBS number 59 nearly 2 years ago, 2022. So today, I'm very, very grateful that welcoming Gloria Yanyu Sensei. And please join me welcoming Professor Yanyu Sensei. Yanyu Sensei, thank you, and the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Professor Yokota, for introducing me. And it's my honor and a pleasure to see everyone here online. And thank you, especially I would like to thank you for Charlene Colons, who introduced me to Professor Yokota. And also thank you for Professor Yokota to invite me. And thank you for all the staffs at Oceania Kiko to support and to make this lecture possible. And today I would like to, I'm sorry for the background music because somehow they're testing some kind of fire alarm system. So I didn't expect this, but it actually helped me relax a little bit. And when I'm nervous, I tend to speak really fast. So today I would like to, I will start my sharing here. Give me 1 second, please. So today I would like to walk through and share with some of the discoveries of my current research. So today my presentation's title is Revisiting the Utopia built on the wild field and urban space in modern Manchuria. And so I would like to start with this photograph. So we're looking at a photograph of a roundabout or a rotary where the traffic flows in one direction and the cars join and leave the central circle. The central circle is covered with trees and a pedestrian road, which lead to a monument in the center. The monument, as I show you on the right part, is a geometric rectangular tower made of granite rocks. And on top of it, there is an airplane. Actually, it's a Soviet airplane painted in green. So this is a memorial for the Soviet pilots who lost their lives in the battle in 1945 when they actually fought against the Japanese and took over Changchun. So this plaza, this round circle, is located in Changchun, a small city located in the middle of the northeast China in nowadays, and it was used to call Manchuria. So the names of the plaza, as I listed here, went through various changes. So the plaza was built in 1932. It was named as Daido Plaza in Japanese, Daido Hiroba. And in 1945, the name was changed to Stalin Plaza to memorize the Soviet leader at the time. In 1946, it was changed again to Changchun Plaza, which is the name of the Chiang Kai-shek, the Chinese leader of Republican China. And then in 1949, it was changed to Renmin Guangchang, which is People's Plaza. It was at the time at the foundation of the PRC. So as the name revealed that the city went through a turbulent modern historical period. And today, I'm going to talk about the urban space of this particular city. So in order to understand it, let's take a look at the history of Manchuria. So the region Manchuria was located in northeastern Eurasia. It was centered around the Amur and the Ussuri River basins, and it was mostly uninhabited until the mid-15th century, when it became the strongholds for Churchian tribes. Among them, Nurhaci and his successor, Hong Taiji, established the Qing dynasty in 1644. For the next 2.5 centuries, the area Manchuria was the ancestral homeland for the Manchu rulers as well as the frontier, as is next to the Russian Empire. As a result, the Han Chinese were prohibited from entering the region, and Manchuria at the time included present-day Heilongjiang, Jilin, and Liaoning provinces, which are the northeast China of the PRC, and the northeastern part of Inner Mongolia, and the Outer Manchuria, a region which is defined by the Treaty of Nurchinsk in 1689, including the land north of the Amur River and east of the Ussuri River and the Sakhalin, which is this marked as yellow, and also the right part. So in the late 19th century, as the Qing dynasty declined, the Russian Empire annexed the Outer Manchuria region as suggested, as marked on this map. The Russia established the Chinese Eastern Railway Company, was founded in 1897 to build railways, and as well as throughout Manchuria as a shortcut for the Trans-Siberian Railway. Along railway lines, the military was stationed, settlements were built, businesses were opened, and the Russian immigrants moved into Manchuria. Harbin and Dalian became the major urban cities developed by the Russians. Japan's story in Manchuria started after the victory of the Russo-Japanese War. Japan gained exclusive right to construct railways and also settlements in southern Manchuria. So the South Manchuria Railway Company, which is SMRC, was established in Dalian in November 1906. With the support of the Japanese Quantum Army, the SMRC became the power engine for the Japanese colonial development in the region, constructing railways, building settlements, and operating business. So basically, they incorporate a similar plan with the China Eastern Railway. Meanwhile, the Qing government initiated a series of reform policies, opening Manchuria to foreign markets to balance the influence of Russia and Japan, promoting Han Chinese immigrants for agricultural settlements, and establishing the prefecture system to replace the military system applied in the Manchurian region. In 1907, the Qing government established 3 eastern provinces of Fengtian, Jilin, and Heilongjiang, and appointed the governors. However, despite the reform efforts, the Qing dynasty was overthrown in 1911, and the Republic of China was established in 1912. However, the political and the military system in the 3 eastern provinces remained largely unchanged, meaning basically the top of the military system in Manchuria became the top official for the new China. So in the meantime, Zhang Zuolin, a local warlord, gained significant military power and became de facto leader of the 3 northeastern provinces by 1916. So Zhang's military control in Manchuria kept the region politically stable, and his civil government's economic policies actually revitalized the economy of the region. However, Zhang's ambition of becoming the new emperor of China was defeated in June 1928, and on his way back to Fengtian from Beijing, his train was bombed by the Japanese Quantum Army, and his son, Zhang Xueliang, handed over the political ruling of the 3 eastern provinces to the central Kuomintang government, which symbolized the unification of China in 1928. So in September 1928, the Republic of China government established the Rehe province, making one of the 4 northeastern provinces. So in 1924, when we talk about Manchuria, it's actually include the 4 provinces. So in 1932, the Manchukuo state, Manchukuo, was founded under Puyi, the last emperor of the Qing dynasty, with de facto Japanese control. From 1932 to 1945, Manchukuo played a critical role in the formation, development, and eventually collapse of the Japanese empire. So as described above, from the late 19th century to the first half of the 20th century, Manchuria was a power pack. Not a single country could establish military hegemony in Manchuria. Actually, temporary alliance and military competitions among Russia, China, meaning the warlord, as well as the Qing dynasty and the central Chinese government, and the Japanese maintained a subtle balance in Manchuria. So the region was home to many different nationalities and ethnic groups, including Manchus, Han Chinese, Mongolians, Muslims, Korean, and Japanese and Russians. After annexation of Korea in 1910, many Koreans fled to Manchuria to continue the anti-Japanese activities. And after 1917, the October Revolution, Russian Jews also immigrated to Harbin, making it the largest Jewish community at the time. By 1940, more than 1 million Japanese people, which is 60% of the Japan's total population at the time, were living in Manchukuo, which made it the lifeline of Japanese empire. I'm really sorry for the music here. I don't know how to turn it off. So the current scholarship of urban planning and architecture in colonial Manchuria developed along with the interest in the architectural legacy of Japanese imperialism. Scholars have focused on primary materials compiled by the research department of SMRC, as well as the extant public buildings built after the establishment of Manchukuo in 1932. So as I listed here, the major scholarship on this topic, as architecture historian, Koshizawa and Nishizawa's research have laid the foundation for studies on urban planning and architecture in Manchuria. Having focused on urban plans and public buildings, they have emphasized that the advanced technology and the concepts in the design of the urban cities in Manchuria. For example, there's a zoning which separates the residential area and in the industrial area, as well as a very high portion of the green space were applied in the designs of the cities. So they have established that the Japanese urban development in Manchuria is an example of the typical progress of modernization in East Asia. Namely, like in Korea and in Taiwan, Japan's imperial expansion transformed Manchuria from a backward region into a modern industrial space. So current studies continue this archive-driven, progress-oriented approach and equaled technical advance with the advance of civilization and emphasize the role of Japanese imperial construction. For example, as I shown in the middle here, in the cover of the 2015 book that reports on the building activities of the construction company Shimizugumi in Shinkyo, the new capital of Manchuria, depicts a colorful urban plan. This is actually the map published in 1939 and unfolding under a blue sky, which allegorically conveys a romanticizing view of Japanese construction in Manchuria, namely the grand buildings were erected by the Japanese from an empty wild land. So the researchers in Northern America, as well as China and Japan, China and Korea, also relied on Japanese archives compiled by the SMRC's research department and keep focusing on public architecture and emphasize the role of imperial power as well as the modernist architectural style. So in one word conclusion, they all adopt a perspective of construction. Namely, for example, the capital of Manchukuo, Shinkyo, was developed from a Japanese railway settlement to an experimental utopia built by the Japanese. So the plaza I showed you here, as you can see, this is the same plaza I showed you on the first slide, and actually it is here in the middle. And the zoning meaning all of this color indicate the different function of the neighborhood. First, and then you can also see the lake and the green space. These are planned parks. And also the region was separate. For example, commercial was separate from the residential area. And this is a photo of the Daido Plaza, Daido Hiloba, in 1936. So you can see there's nothing there, and there's only the public building of the police office there. So this is a very simplified and also a very clear formula. So establish the opposition between the two parts, namely the colonizer with the colonized, metropolis with the wild fields, and Japan, Russia, actually mainly Japan, with China, and industry with agriculture, colonialism, modernism with the pre-modern. However, as scholars have already pointed out, there is an uncharted territory and ignored spaces. As I introduced in the very first part of my talk, during the first half of the 20th century, the land of Manchuria was not an empty field. Actually, various political, military, and economic powers constantly competed for dominance and negotiate their power relationships, which led to a very fluctuated, constantly changing, and multi-layered local space characterized by multiple ethnic groups, nationalities, and social groups. So, as architectural historian Aoi Akihito already points out, the limitation of the current scholarship, namely, they heavily focused on the Japanese maps, which were actually censored by the Japanese Kwantung Army, and also the building activities in Manchuria as portrayed by these scholars came from a singular perspective of one imperial power, and therefore we have to ask, when there's change of dominant powers, for example, from Russia to Japan, from the warlord to the central Chinese government, when the change of dominant power happened, how was it visualized? And what was the local building environment? And how did it react to the colonial construction? Namely, there are certain new directions in the current studies. I listed 4 here. First, new discoveries of primary materials in non-Japanese languages are necessary. For example, the Chinese maps or the text written by the Chinese intellectual or Chinese governors at the time. So the second is that the temporal framework need to be shifted to pre-1932, and the area also need to be shifted to the area outside of the Japanese settlement. So the third is based on the current scholarship in modern history, is the shift of the theoretical perspective and the framework to focusing on the local society, namely the society where the Japanese, the Chinese, the Russian, and other groups, how they interact very closely to each other. And the number 4 is to beyond architectural style, namely we have to focus on the daily space. Where do these people live? Where do these people go to shopping? Rather than just the government buildings of the colonial power here. So,
館内の皆様へお知らせいたします。
sorry.
ただいまもちまして、スピーカーの点検を終了いたします。ただいまもちまして。
No worry, Gloria Sensei.
Okay, I'm waiting for. So, 終了いたしました. So, complicated. Complicated. So, in order to follow these 4 new directions, I managed to pull up visit various archives. In the past years, I managed to find 11 maps that are produced before 1932, and in both Chinese, English, and also Japanese. And I also managed to find several, for example, the local history annals of Changchun, as well as the Changchun governor's memorial and also intellectuals memorial about the time period in before 1932. So in the rest of the time, in the around 10 minutes, I would like to introduce some of my own findings about Changchun. So we will focus on Changchun, also because this is where I show you the plaza was actually located here. I'm sorry for this blurry map because of the copyright issue, please understand. So in other maps, I will try to show clear details. So the Xinqiu, the new capital, before was designated in 1932, and it was considered the new capital of Manchukuo. So in this 13 years, a lot of new development were, a lot of new avenues were built. For example, the postcard I show you here, this is a photo of the avenue actually right up here. So it's going from the plaza and leading to the train station. And you can see it is a very wild avenue, and also trees were planted, and there are buildings, new buildings were built in this kind of a concrete box shape. So this is a typical example of the ultra-modern utopian metropolis built on a tabula rasa. So, however, if we took a clear look, zooming in this map, we will find out within the different colors, there are a large areas marked in light yellow, and as well as this dark red area. Actually, this was regarded as the old town, so Q-Shigaichi area. So together, this area, however, there was not many new buildings. The new development, the new Shigaichi, the area was the area outside of this region. So this is the area, it exists pre-1932. So today I would like to take a closer look at this. So the old town, the so-called, before 1932, the Xinqiu, the new capital, was named Changchun. It means the long spring. And it was made of 4 parts. First, according to the timeline, so in 1865 is the inner city, which is this area marked here. And then in 1898, it was the Changchun railway settlement built by the Russian Railway, which actually north to this part is not shown on the map here. And in 1907, the Southern Manchuria Railway settlement, which is marked by the dark red, was opened here. And then in 1907, the Qing government established a trading zone as a result of opening Manchuria to the foreign market. So this is the inner city, this is the trading zone, and then this is the South Manchurian railway settlements. So by pulling all the Chinese and the Russian and the English materials, I managed to came out some details about these areas. So today I will introduce one example. So this is one of the earliest maps actually compiled by the Japanese consulate in Changchun at the time. As you can see very clearly, this is the yellow part was the Changchun, the inner city, and then the pink part was the Japanese railway settlement, and then the blue part actually was established early than the Japanese one was the blue part. And then the Japanese settlement was established in between the Russian railway settlement as well as the inner city. And here, actually, this is written as reserved for the trading zone area. So what happened is that, so in the inner city, so far, we didn't have a lot of material, but based on the 11 maps, I overlapped them together and also together with the Chinese text. So this is what we know about the inner city, the Changnei, the original Chinese city. So first, as revealed here, it was developed along the river, along the eastern river, and the major population actually gathered either within the city or along the road that leads to the river. And then it was surrounded by walls and as well as the gates. So this is one of the earliest photos I found. And the earliest map was the trading zone of Changchun, which is made in 1909. So as is clearly depicted here, the major city was divided by a road that ran from north to south, and also the center area was the third and fourth streets as listed here. So this is another map. I overlap several layers of them. And this is the central area, which is the old bank and also government office, and as well as other different facilities were all gathered around this area, as well as the markets. So the Third Avenue lead to the western gate, and then towards there are kind of a double gate, and then Russian consulate as well as the military was deposited here. So this is one of the major avenue and the center area. So within the center area, the landmark of the center, according to the text, was a temple called Cai Shen Miao. So it's the temple of fortune god, which was established in 1832. It was the largest compound in the city. It was located near here, actually next to the Association of the Chinese Merchant. We don't have any visual material of it. We only know from the text that it has 33 rooms. It was the largest temple compound within the city. It has benches, it has ponds, and for viewers to visit, it has a lot of green spaces. And in 1916, the silver market, the trading market was established within the temple compound. And then there are a lot of public gatherings and also parties of the upper class were held on the temple compound, as well as the school events. So it was there was also a viewing tower established within the compound, make it a kind of a landmark of the entire inner city. And another example is that if we compare the 1910s maps together with the 1920s, that this southwestern area disappeared actually. So in the 1910s, they were very depicting details with roads and also names of the streets as well as the houses were marked in shadow. However, in the 1920s map, this area was gone. So the reason was that the relocation of the major crop dealers to the southern Manchurian railway settlement, namely because of the construction of the railway in the railway settlement, the Chinese crop dealers, they all moved to this corner area near the railway in the railway settlement. So the original, this area, because they were located next to the transportation roads, and it's easy for using the carriage to carry all of the crops to the southern Manchuria area for sale. So the crop dealers were the major trading activities as well as the major economy power of Changchun. These large crop dealers, they usually have the large compounds having the accommodation rooms for the farmers who sent in their crops, as well as the places for trade and also storage. As you can see here, there's a large, they rely on the carriage before the railway coming into the city. So this actually, the entire trading activities were relocated to the Manchurian Railway because shipping things using train actually is more convenient, and you can ship a lot of large bulk of the crops. So this resulted in the prosperity of the Japanese railway settlement because they rely on the Chinese merchants' trading activities, and they invented a lot of activity to invite them to move in. For example, you don't need to pay tax, whereas the original area, this area deteriorated. So those kind of urban changes are something I have been tracing for the past years. And then after 1932, the establishment of Manchukuo and the designation of the new capital in Changchun, this area together, the trading zone, the Chinese inner city, as well as the railway settlement, they were all considered as the old city. And then they were overshadowed by the development of mass tourism. Actually, if you look at this photograph, you will recognize there is one bus here. This is the tourist bus. So this photo was not a snapshot. It was a staged shot figuring the tourist bus in the middle. So the tourist bus, they all went through the new town. So they never go through the old town. So actually for majority of the materials published during this period, none of them provide any detailed depiction of the Chinese neighborhood or the railway settlement neighborhood. So of course, there are exceptions. So I listed two here. If you're interested in, actually, there are Japanese, you're allowed to go in there wandering around by yourself. And these accounts were actually listed here if you're interested in them. So just to wrap up, so the conclusion is that, so the historian Alexandra Stancheny, he mentioned a concept of local colonial archives, namely that the archive built by the colonial power in the former colonies, actually they produce a lot of archives that already have a selected and a filtered viewpoint that actually select certain material to be recorded in those archives. So when we go back to those historical period, we have to be very aware of the filter that are produced by these local colonial archives, which are very different from the local archives. And then if nowadays you take a stroll in Changchun, you can still see the traces of different political period as well as a historical period and the political powers. For example, in the north, you can still see the buildings left by the Russian military and also the buildings built by the Chinese Qing government as the government office of the trading zone. And then you also see the Japanese colonial government buildings and the Japanese Manchurian, the SMRC's dormitory, as well as the political center. So if you take a stroll and you follow this kind of, it's sort of like Italo Calvino's Invisible City, you try to pick up the trace and to reconstruct the past. So in recent days, there are a lot of oral history published in this area about the Chinese living space in this trading zone as well as as inner city. So further research needs to be done. So if we go today to the Caishen Miao, the temple of fortune god, which is supposed to be the landmark of the city, of the inner city at the time before 1932, we will encounter a market like this. Only the names Caishen was preserved in the address of the area. However, if you go there and you will encounter these sculptures. So this is the statue of the fortune god. So there's no label and no one knows why it was there, since when it was there. But these are the historical traces that tells you the hidden story of Changchun. Thank you very much. And I welcome any questions. Thank you. And also advice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria Sensei. Although there are some unexpected BGM, you had a wonderful comment and it didn't disturb us much. Yeah, I could hear very clearly your voice. So yeah, thank you again so much. So we have 5 minutes question and answer. So there are some comments and answer already in the chat box. So first, some comment is, hi, Gloria Sensei, and thank you very much. And the question is, in Shinkyo, 1932 to 1945, were the areas separated by language spoken there or ethnic groups? Example, residual area for Japanese that of Chinese, commercial area for Japanese, that of Russian, etc. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is a very good question because so far, if we look at the material that was made or the people's memoir who lived in Xingqiu, in Changchun, after 1932, and especially towards the end of the middle of 1940, they always talk about there's a separation between the Japanese and the Chinese. For example, the Chinese will all live in the area which I marked as this shallow yellow, and they didn't go to the newly built Japanese streets. However, the question would be the other ways that the Japanese, they remember from the memoir, and they said that they didn't go to the Chinese neighborhood. So there is somehow a separation. And however, if we go from even further, for example, when Changchun was established in late 19th century and around 1910 and 12, actually, the Japanese and the Chinese, they were living in the same space. By which I mean the Japanese consulate as well, Japanese office, they were actually set within the inner city, which is the Chengnei, the Chinese city. And then the Chinese merchant, they also live in the Japanese railway settlement. So they were actually living, and also there are other Russians, they also rented a house. So when the Russia settlement, there are also Japanese, they moved into the Russian settlement after 1917 because a lot of Russian officers, they completely went away after 1917, the October Revolution, and the Japanese and the Chinese, they move in. So before 1932, there's actually not that kind of a clear border between different ethnic groups. And also Koreans also live in trading zone in the Chinese zone. So however, after there's only the Japanese, especially the officers who were rotated there, they only live in the Japanese neighborhood.
Nice. Okay.
I hope.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So the next question is, before 1932, there are less materials or less informations. What if it is okay, could you please let us know the reasons?
Yes, I think there are two reasons. One is the theoretical framework. Another one is the historical context. So I would like to explain this too. First is that before 1930, maps making is usually a political and a military activities. For example, the Russian, they go there and then they map it. And then there is constantly debates. The Chinese government always published the order to chase away the foreigners who made maps because it related to spy activities. So if you want to make a map, you measure the thing. It requires a lot of political negotiations and military negotiation, and also a lot of so-called commercial secrets. So the material I found before 1932, there are different stages. The one stage is that they were made in 1909, from 1909 to 1912. So this time period was when the Qing government began to apply this new reforms in Manchuria. So that's why they wanted to make a modern map of Manchuria. This is how you have several Chinese maps were made using modern techniques during this time, and to map this inner city and the railway, inner city and the trading zone. Well, at the same time, the Japanese consulate, they also came to Changchun around the same time. So they have their own people. That's why I show you the first handwriting. So actually it is basically hand drawing maps. So this is a series of time where intense map making activities were happening during this time. And then there's another time, is right after 1912, when the new Republican China was established. So this is the time when the government of Republican China, they began to make maps. And then they invite the Chinese official, actually from southern China. They came in, and then they also made maps of other Chinese cities around. So these usually came along with the political powers basically control. So this is how also the Manchurian, so the Southern Manchurian Railway, they began also to make maps. In the very beginning, they only make maps of the Japanese railway settlement, because that is along their power. Around other areas, the trading zone and the Chinese city, they actually copy the Chinese map. So in Japanese book, you can actually find out in a book published in 1912 by a Japanese journalist, you actually see a replica of a Chinese map. They completely just move, and actually they know each other. So this actually shows you the network. So up until 1932, the material are not zero, but it's very few, because once you establish somehow, you along the time of the year, you see the differences in change in the trading zone. However, after 1932, it is almost a bombard of visual material produced by the government. You have postcard, you have different maps, you have different really detailed maps. So compared to that, there was one, this kind of a historical reason. Another one is that the theoretical framework is that most people focusing on the time period between 1932 and 1945, also because during this time period, they also publish a lot of summary. So they summarize the things happened before, and then they established the thing. So this is all somehow the vast amount of material produced, and they were intentionally produced and being look like. Yeah, I hope I answer your question.
Very, very detailed and very interesting explanation. Thank you so much, Yang Sensei. And yeah, thank you again for very informative and a very interesting presentation today, Yang Sensei. Thank you for taking your precious time for presenting today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And thank you again. Thank you very much for any participant who joined BBS today and who put questions in the chat box. I really appreciate it. So hopefully you enjoyed today's BBS. So that's end of today's BBS, and I will give it to the Anai Sensei for other announcement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
先生、横田先生、ありがとうございました。最後にありがとうございます。最後に事務局よりご案内させていただきます。まず次回のブラウンバックセミナーのご案内です。次回は再来週5月8日水曜日12時10分より、九州大学システム情報科学研究院およびアジア・オセアニア研究教育機構のヌレン・アベディン学術研究員より、ジェンダー平等を達成するためのライドシェアとソーシャルビジネスと題し講演を実施いたします。詳細はホームページをご覧ください。